Hello, everyone. Welcome back to In the Yard podcast with your hosts, Collin and Braeden Cox, as we are previewing each division in the MLB as MLB season and baseball season is right around the corner. So today in this segment, we are going to be previewing the NL East. Last year the Braves kind of held their crown all season for the most, and then they had the Phillies upsetting them again for the second straight year in the AL or NLDS, I should say. Um, and then, you also have the Mets, the Marlins, and the Nats. So Brady and I are going to give you our predictions right here on In the Yard about what the standings will look like, what they'll compare to last year, how they compare to Fangraphs projected standings, and everything in between. So stay tuned for our predictions. Last episode with the NL Central, Brady, we started from 5-1. We worked our way up. Do you want to stick to 5-1, or do you want to do 1-5 this time?
Uh, let's keep it consistent. Let's do 5-1.
All right, let's do 5-1 then. I started last time, so you could give me your five there.
Yeah, and I might make it easy for you because I have a feeling we're gonna have the same exact number five. I'm gonna have the Washington Nationals finishing last in the NL East once again. I don't know, man. Like maybe 60 wins this year. Like I
Wow.
I I, I anticipate them, and maybe this is a little preview going forward. Them and like maybe the Colorado Rockies being the worst two teams, definitely in the NL, but maybe in baseball in general. They just really didn't. What did they do? They added Joey Gallo. You know what I mean? Like what did they do this offseason? They're a young team. We talked about that before we started here, but like do you expect them really to be even better than like the Marlins?
No, no. I mean,
So
Fangraphs has them projected to win only 66 games, which would be second worst in the league. Um,
and that's less
behind
than
or
last
ahead
year.
ahead in the Rockies. Yeah, that's less than last
That's
year.
like, didn't they win
Um,
like 73? Like they were pretty close with the
they
Mets
won
for a little bit. I
71
remember,
games last year. They won
yeah, and I
71.
remember the
So
Mets. The
Fangraphs
Mets
predicted
were
a five
below them
win
for a
crop.
little bit. Like
Yeah,
the Mets, when the Mets were like really in
right.
shambles, the Nationals were ahead of them. But then, law of averages, it kind of ended up with the Mets being a little bit ahead, but not much. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't. But we'll see what happens with the Mets as well. I think they're a huge question mark, but yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think that there's going to be any other team that's worse than the Nationals this year. They just didn't do anything, and it's tough. But
Yeah, I mean, one thing the Nats have going for them, they got CJ Abrams. They
yeah,
got some decent pitching. They just signed Joey Gallo. They got James. So they're a super young team, is what I'm trying to get at
yeah.
here.
Besides
Um,
Joey Gallo,
yeah, but they could. I wouldn't be surprised like if they're like get on these little streaks where they
yeah.
could win a couple games here and there, get some win streaks going. But yeah, I'm not buying into them. But actually, Brandon, this might be a little bit of a hot take. I don't have them as my five. Um,
Really?
yeah, I think I'm gonna go with the Mets. The Mets at
Okay.
five. Just, I mean, take it with a grain of salt. I mean, I
Yeah.
know, I know. The Mets just seem to always have bad luck, and like you said, the Nationals last year were right behind the Mets. Um, pretty much all season. Like they used like you said they were ahead of them for a little bit. And to me, the Mets they didn't really make that big splash again this offseason. They were
Yeah.
trying to get Yamamoto, they couldn't land him.
They tried to get everybody.
Yeah, and then last year they traded away the two best pitchers in the league, Verlander
Yeah.
and Scherzer. Scherzer was kind of out with injuries all year, but Verlander was fairly healthy for the whole season. Um, and just yeah, just they did. Alonso's on his contract year, and then they got
Hmm.
Kodai Senga is already going to be out for who knows how long. So
Yeah.
I just think as of right now, like take it with a grain of salt. It just seems like nothing's really going the Mets' way.
Yeah.
So I have them as my 5 seed. I mean, do I really think that they will finish last? No, but at this rate, I just wouldn't be surprised. So I'll put them in there at five. And then Nationals for
So
me will
like
be four.
plus or minus, like how many wins would you say for the Mets?
It's tough because you don't know when Senga's coming back. You don't know. Alonso's going to be good, but maybe they'll try to trade him.
It's
Come
possible.
come
It's
midway through
totally
the year
possible.
if they can't reach an agreement. Um, they re-signed Bader. I don't think he's going to give them that much of a boost. So like maybe I'll go like 72. I'll do
Okay. They
72,
won
and I
75 last year.
okay, yeah, I'll go 72, and I could see like the Nationals maybe winning like 72, 73.
That's fair.
Fangraphs has them projected to win 66. So we'll see how it goes. I just think, and it's just tough. I mean, it's just a 4 and 5, so I don't think either of those teams are going to be making really any noise come September for the
Yeah.
playoffs.
So
But
in summary, these two teams are the bottom of this division for sure.
yeah,
And their win total is right around each other. So we can at least
yeah,
agree there. The thing about the Mets for me was like, can it really get worse than last year? You know what I mean? Like that was
yeah.
kind of
That's
my
fair.
perspective going into this is like last year was bad. Like they won 75 games last year, going into the season, specifically Mets fans are like, no, this team is like legit. If you get in the playoffs, like this team can make noise. The previous year they had made the playoffs, and I believe they lost to the Padres that year. I don't. For some reason, I'm thinking the Mets and the Padres met in the playoffs. Um, going 2-3 years back at this point.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Um,
Yeah, maybe I think it was the
so
Padres. I think it
and then
was.
the Padres went and played Philadelphia. No,
Yeah,
or
I
maybe
want to
I'm thinking
say.
about that wrong.
I know the Padres played Philly. I don't know who they beat in the first round. I couldn't tell you. Or were the
Yeah,
Padres the one
maybe that was
seed?
a wild card. Maybe the Mets and the
Yeah,
Padres were wild card teams. I don't remember,
not.
but they definitely met in the playoffs. But that's besides the
Yeah, I
point,
don't
right?
remember. I'm not sure.
You feel like that this team could win games. It's just like you don't really know. Like, and then like you said, they already have injuries. Pete Alonso in a contract year. They could very well trade him to, pick up some assets, to a contender. Similar
Yeah,
to what happened to Scherzer and what happened to Verlander last year. So I'm definitely not buying the Mets hype by putting them at 4. I have them like maybe winning like a game or two more than the Nationals. Um,
yeah. So I mean, it's those
but
last
the
three
way I
games are
look
up in the
at,
air. Yeah,
yeah, the way I look at it is like, dude, if it gets worse than last year, like the only way it really gets worse than last year is if they do finish last to the Nationals, who probably their best player is CJ Abrams, right?
yeah.
Like that would be something. That's the only way I really
That's
seeing
fair.
it get worse.
That's
So
fair.
I'm gonna have the Mets
Yeah.
at 4, and you're gonna have them just flip flop.
Yeah, so flip flop. Yeah, and like, just another thing, to me with the Mets is Steve Cohen said himself, like, yeah, it's gonna be a rebuilding year. So maybe he's really thinking long term. Like,
Yeah,
it sounds like he's really thinking long term and not now, which is kind of concerning because that makes it seem like he wants to trade away some of his better players so he could be better in the future. So that's another thing I'm kind of taking into consideration there. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't I don't know. It's just gonna be tough between those teams, but I don't think either of them are gonna make noise come playoff time. That's
yeah, and the thing is like they've got good players, right? They got Lindor,
yeah, they
they've
do.
got Pete Alonso, like we said, like they added Harrison Bader, they got Severino, like they have like decent players, right? But the biggest thing last year was like, wow, this team has a lot of good players, but zero chemistry. It was not working.
Mhm.
Um, which is why they ended up trading it and
I
really
mean,
just kind of
Edwin
blowing it up.
Edwin Diaz is back this year. I forgot to note
It's
that. Take
true.
that in consideration.
This is true.
We'll see.
But that doesn't sway the field for me. So I'm still gonna have the Mets at 4.
Right? He can only come in when they're actually winning games in the end. So
Exactly.
all right. So we just have the 4 and 5 flip flop pretty
Yeah.
much, and I'm assuming we'll probably be on the same page for the rest of the way here. So give me your three.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have the Miami Marlins at 3. Last year, 84 wins, 78 losses. I hate 84 wins for the Marlins is like impressive. I feel like last year was a good season. I don't know if they'll be able to necessarily duplicate it. I'm just like it's not that I'm not high on them. It's just like I think that the other two teams in the division are just so good or so much better that it's just hard for me to
Yeah,
buy into any Miami Marlins hype. They added
that's
Tim
fair.
Anderson, which like, you know, former All Star. Um, so I mean, like I said, I mean, I've got the Nationals like not having that many wins this year. Like I'm talking like 60-ish, maybe 65. Mets not too far behind at like 70. And then I got the Marlins like maybe 75. You know what I mean? Like I don't
75.
expect,
That's a nine
yeah,
win
man.
drop
Like
there from last year. I
dude,
mean,
84 and 78, or maybe it'll have them going like 78, 78. You know what I mean? Something like very average, right?
okay.
Because that's to me what they are is they could be a playoff team in a conference where, the NL West is pretty good, but really the good teams are in the NL East. You know what I mean? Like they could make the playoffs or be in the race and be 500. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So
Yeah.
they're like a
Okay.
good team, but at the end of the day, like 84 wins last year was very impressive. So I mean, we'll see.
I
We'll
think
see,
I
but I'm
think they're
gonna
gonna
have
win
them at
more
3.
than I think they're gonna win more than 84 this year.
Really?
Yeah, I'm gonna go like 85, 86. Just because they added Tim Anderson, who's a good player. I know you didn't love the signing. I know you kind of don't agree with Tim Anderson, but I think I think he kind of Anderson just kind of needed a fresh start kind of thing. And the
That's
Marlins
fair.
they got a good shortstop. They didn't have a great shortstop last year. I don't even know who it was. When did like was it like Gene Segura or something? Um,
Yeah,
was it? I think it was him, or he was played second. But I think they kind of like last year they were kind of a young team. They traded for Arias, who had a great season. I don't think he's going to have as good of a season because it's going to be hard to top that. Um, but I think they kind of similar to like what I said about the Reds. I think they kind of know who they are now. I think they know
that's
they can win
true.
games. I think Jake Berger, he had a good year last year. Pretty high standards for him this year. Jazz Chisholm, didn't have a great season, but he's still going to be a solid piece for them. They have a good pitching, have a good bullpen. So I just think I think they're going to still come in third. I agree with you in the standings, but I think they'll win more than 84. And they're going to go 85, 86 games.
Let me ask you though. So I'll just throw in this real quick. FanDuel has them win total 78.5. So a definite drop off from last year. And I might be getting a little bit ahead of myself here. Do they make the playoffs? Is that a playoff team to you? Right?
It's
I
tough
mean, we
because
haven't talked about the NL West yet, right?
yeah,
But we're obviously going to have the two other teams that we're about to talk about in as playoff teams, right?
right.
Someone's got to win the Central. We both said the Reds. And then you got out west. You got a couple teams in the West that you could
It's
argue,
gonna
like,
be to
you
me
know what I
that
mean?
last wild card spot is gonna come down to the Giants and the Marlins
Okay. So right here
right
on
now. As of
NER,
right
Colin
now,
says it right now.
I don't know where
He
I don't
says,
know where Snell he still hasn't signed. The
yeah,
Giants just signed Matt Chapman last night. I think the
yeah.
Giants are gonna try to be a contender. They made some
So
pretty
do
decent
I.
moves, but so
So
that's
do
what I'm
I. I'm
saying. I
excited
think
for our NL West
I
episode,
kind
but
of put
yeah,
the Giants and the Marlins on this because they both play in really good divisions. Um, and I think that kind of like they're solid teams. They just play in really tough divisions.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I think I kind of put Marlins and Giants in the same boat. I think the only thing that the Central teams kind of have going for them is the fact they play in the Central. So they're kind
yeah,
of just gonna be all like average and win like the
yeah.
same
They're
amount
gonna
of games.
they
Meanwhile, like the
every
Marlins are
single
gonna
three
play
game
the
series they're gonna win two.
Braves.
Yeah,
They're gonna have to play the Braves and play the Phillies, and then the same thing for the Giants will play the Dodgers and D-backs, um, kind of thing.
yeah,
But I think Marlins. I would take. I think they're a better team than everyone in the Central, in my opinion. Like I think they're more
yeah. I
well
mean,
rounded.
that's fair.
So,
Yeah,
but
I mean, I
I
get
don't know. I
that's
think
a fair take.
yeah. So off the top of my head, was it 6 teams make the playoffs now? So you're gonna get obviously
Yeah,
go Phillies. I don't want to get too off track here, but Braves,
yeah.
Phillies, Dodgers, D-backs, Reds, and then that last is gonna be good. It's gonna be Giants,
Okay,
Giants
that's
and
fair.
Marlins, in my opinion. In my
That's
opinion.
fair. That's fair. I guess the way I look at that is if I had to go between the two teams, I would lean Giants right now.
Right. That's fair. That's a fair
Right.
point.
So so we'll
I
see.
just think
But
it's
yeah, we
tough.
both have them at 3. It's just a matter of how good we expect them to be.
Yeah.
I expect them to be closer to the level of like, the two other teams, I guess you could say, like the Mets, maybe not the Nationals. Maybe I shouldn't throw the Nationals in there, but I expect their win total to be, you know, hover a little bit closer to say the Mets versus like
The
the
Phillies.
the Phillies and the Braves.
Interesting.
But we'll see. Last year, the Marlins were only 6 game. Only the Phillies only had 6 more wins than the Marlins. So we'll see.
Speaking of the Phillies,
Yeah,
Braden, I think we're gonna be on the same page here again.
yeah,
I have the Phillies as finishing second. Um,
yeah. So do I. So do I for sure.
I mean, just they're a great team. They have the pitching, they have the hitting, but there's also the Braves in their division.
Yeah.
Um, and I was doing a lot of research on the other night on the Braves and their hard hit percentage and all that stuff, and it's honestly astonishing like how good they actually were, like how much depth their offense has. Like it was
Yeah.
insane. Like actually looking at the stats. So I think I don't know if the Bears are going to be as good as they were last year, but I can't see them. They didn't lose, and they went and acquired Sale. We'll see how he does this season.
And they got the
Um,
guy from Seattle, Jared, whatever, Kellish or something like
Derek
that.
Kalenic.
Kalenic, yeah.
Yeah. So see, I think the Braves. I don't think they're going to be as good as they were, but it's going to be hard to top what they did last season here. Um,
Yeah. I mean, they had 104 wins
so
last year.
yeah,
That's a pretty high mark. But what I will say, so, you know, you have Phillies two, I have Braves one, and I know we kind of jumped to the Braves here, right? But I would say probably in all of baseball, I think they're probably like the biggest playoff lock. Like they're probably the only team that I would say has like 100% chance to make the playoffs. And I know that might sound crazy because we got the Dodgers and we've got, other teams like the Orioles are still good, but like the Braves in the regular season are like so 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 good. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
like there's no team I trust more in the regular season than the Braves. Right? The Dodgers are going to be very good. Tani, they went and got Teoscar Hernandez. They're still loaded, right? But they play in a division that I think is probably right now a little bit better than the NL East. You might, counter me on there. Um, but I went and jumped to the Braves here. So I'm gonna have the Braves as one, and then the Phillies too. But again, going to the Phillies is I think the Phillies are
Yeah, let's get back to the Phillies real
base.
quick.
Yeah, the Phillies are gonna be very very similar to what they were last year. They're gonna be a good
Yeah,
team.
yeah, I
Um,
agree.
they're gonna go through a few slumps. I don't expect the same like kind of drought that like Trey Turner went on. Like he killed it in the
Hmm.
World Baseball Classic and then was not playing great baseball for the
And
Phillies.
then
And
didn't have Brett, or they didn't have Bryce for the first month either. Take that into
exactly. So I
consideration.
expect them to be, I mean, by that logic, okay, they didn't have Bryce Harper. Trey Turner wasn't playing well. They should win more games.
Yeah, Fangraphs has them
And they
losing
probably
five less
will.
games, or Fangraphs has them losing winning five less games. So they had 90 wins last year. Fangraphs says 85 wins in 2024.
Okay. Okay. I
I
mean,
guess I do disagree with that. I think they'll win like
so
92.
do I. I was gonna say I think 90-72. I think that they can win more games than that. I just think that the Braves, it's gonna be so hard to catch the Braves.
Yeah, I think the Braves are going to be ridiculous again. I mean,
Yeah,
like I said, just looking at their numbers before, like their hard hit, their home runs, there's just so much depth on offense. Even their pitching's really good as well. It just makes it even more of a shame that the NLDS wasn't like a 7 game series between the Phillies and the Braves. I think it would have been. I think that series would have gone 7. I think probably would have went the Braves' way, a little more games to sample to actually play in.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, to me, the Phillies are going to be good. I think they're going to be better than they were last year.
yeah.
I don't. Yeah,
I
like you
agree.
said, I think you hit the nail on the head with the Trey thing. I don't think he's going to be as bad, which is obviously going to help them later on down the line. Bryce Harper just seems to be healthy in spring training.
Yeah,
Um, and I just think they're going to be hungry again. I know they kind of got upset by the D-backs there, so I think they're going to be hungry for a World Series. And they're hopefully they'll make another run toward the World Series again. So, but yeah, I had the Phillies finishing second, the Braves finishing first, just because nothing against the Phillies there, just the Braves are just that good. But we've seen
yeah,
it. We've seen the playoffs. Anything could happen in the playoffs. Phillies have beaten them
yeah. No,
twice in a
absolutely.
row,
And
two
that's
years
the
in a
point
row
I
in
was
the
just gonna
DS.
make.
So
That's the point I was just gonna make is like, regardless, like we're both gonna have the Braves. I'm assuming you have the Braves winning over 100 games regular season
yeah, Fangraph says
or close.
97, and they won like what 904
Last
last
year
year.
they had 104.
104 is gonna be tough. Like
No,
that's a
I
good
think they can. I
season.
think they could definitely hit 100.
Yeah, I think they'll hit 100. I don't know if they'll hit 104. I would
Yeah.
I would say somewhere like 98, 103 range.
Okay.
But
That's fair, right? Um. So we're both having the Braves being, definitely winning this division. But if the past two seasons we saw the Phillies dominate them in the playoffs,
yeah,
right? And we had
dominate
discussions
them.
about the playoff format and if it, you know, if it poorly favored the Braves in this instance because they had the bye, and then the Phillies got that kind of warm up, as you could call it, against the Marlins
Mm-hmm.
in the wild card round. So, like, I could totally see that happening again. Like, I'm gonna say it now. If these two teams see each other in the playoffs again next year, the Phillies are 2-0 against them in the playoffs in the past few years. So
Yeah,
it's like
they
it'd
have
be
their
almost
number.
hard.
Yeah,
Yeah, they have their number, but what I will say is I think if it were to happen again, like let's say the NLDS or the NLCS is Phillies Braves again, I think everybody would jump on the Phillies bandwagon, but then the Braves would figure it out. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like
No, that's fair.
the first year, everyone's like the Braves got them, and then the Phillies went to the World Series. Then last year they met again, and a little bit more people were on the Phillies, but most people were like, "Well, the Braves are the better team. They won 104 games, and the Phillies still won." So I think if it happened again,
Dude,
I think everyone,
I think it's on track to happen again, unless the Dodgers win more games than the Braves.
yeah,
Because if it's the same format, it's just going to be the Braves, as the 1 seed, the Phillies as the first wild card,
wild card team.
and then they'll most likely win that wild card game, and then they'll just play the
Yeah,
Braves again. It's going to be the same thing. It's,
yeah, and
as of right
I think
now,
if we get that again, I think, like I said, I think if we get that again, I think a lot of people will jump on Philadelphia because the past 2 years we saw them beat the Braves. But I
Yeah,
think I think the moment everybody's on Philly, the Braves are going to figure it out. You know what I mean?
that's
So
fair.
we'll see. But I think the Braves probably win the most games out of any team in baseball this year. I'll say that now.
Wow, over
I
the
know
Dodgers even.
the Dodgers won what last year? 100?
It's
I
still
don't know.
solid, and they got Otani
They
and
won 100
Yamamoto
last year,
and
and they got
Grass now.
Otani, they got Teoscar. Yeah,
They
I
up
mean,
they up their
like,
pitching staff. It's gonna be tough. It'll be fun to see.
yeah, and both teams have a team in the division that they can just completely beat up on.
Bro.
They could both beat up
If
on the
you
Rockies and
Let me ask you this
Nationals,
real quick.
respectively.
Let me ask you this real quick. Um if you're like a 1 seed and the Phillies are probably gonna get that wild card spot, would you kind of want to be the 2 seed so you wouldn't have to play the Phillies like in the
You
second
are
round
if
in a
you're the
5 game?
Braves.
That's what
You
I
are if
mean.
you're the
So
Braves.
maybe
I think if you're
maybe
any,
they
I think if you're any other team, I think if you're the Dodgers, you're okay playing Philadelphia,
okay, that's fair.
right? Especially, it's tough because the Dodgers have, for the past few years, been choke artists in the playoffs, right?
Same thing with the Braves, you could kind of say, except for in
Yeah, I mean,
2021.
yeah, I mean that's true. I don't think that you look at it from the perspective of like, oh, like if we drop to the 2 seed here, we can potentially, because the
Yeah,
one
I
and
mean,
2 seed both get buys.
obviously, you're not thinking that. Like, you're not gonna
No, you would never
play
actually
for a
do it,
two.
but you're thinking in the
Yeah,
back of your mind, like, oh, I really don't want to draw Philly. I think, yeah, I mean it's tough.
because in that case, you draw a team like the Giants or the Marlins or the D-backs,
Or the
most
Reds or something.
likely.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean it's true. It's true. It is a high powered. It's definitely a good division, but I don't know. I mean, we're gonna talk about the NL West, but like, would you want to play the Diamondbacks? You know what I mean? Because the
yeah, I mean, it's
Diamondbacks, I
tough.
think
I
we're
mean,
both gonna have them making the playoffs. Like,
yeah,
it's like, would you rather play Philly or the Diamondbacks?
yeah. At the end of the day, you got to go out and win the game when it's all said and done.
True.
So
This is true. This is
um,
true. But
yeah,
I
it's
don't
good.
know. We'll
Those are
see.
good topics. There's probably like the pros and cons of being a 1 and 2 seed. So you can look at
Yeah.
it either way, kind of thing.
Yeah. So we'll see. But I'm gonna have pretty much the way they finished last year. I'm gonna have Braves, Phils, Marlins, Mets, Nationals.
Yeah, same for me.
I think that's realistic. But the question mark definitely is going to be on the Braves. Can the Braves do it? They won a World Series a few years ago. Um, didn't have to play Philadelphia that year. Phillies kind of got their number in the playoffs. If they draw them again, yeah, it would be great for TV. I'd definitely be watching all those games. But I don't know. The Phillies kind of had that underdog to them the past few years. They were a little bit more favored last year just because they had been in the World Series previously. But it's like, can they do it 3 times in a row? That would be very, very impressive if they knocked out the best team, arguably the best team in the conference 3 years in a row.
Yeah,
So we'll see.
they could happen though. I wouldn't be
It
surprised.
could totally happen.
Come
Baseball,
October.
baseball is a crazy thing.
All right. I think you're good here. I think we're about wrapped it up. We're about
Yeah.
ready to wrap it up. All right. Speaking of the Phillies, again, one last thing. Going to be mentioning this at the end of our episodes. Please join Braden and I for our official In the Yard tailgate on July 29th. when our
Yes.
beloved New York Yankees take on the Philadelphia Phillies in Philly at Citizens Bank Park. The game's at 6:40. Tailgate probably starts around 2. So let Brady and I know if you are interested. Probably 60 to $70 we're looking at per ticket. It'll be like outfield first section seat. So if you're interested, please reach out to Brady and I and let us know how many would be coming with you. And just let us know, preferably by March 15th
Yeah, that's you got
or
about
18th.
2 weeks to let
I
us
keep 15th, 18th,
15th,
sometime
18th,
in
something
yeah.
like that, around then. In the next two
The
weeks or
sooner the
so, let
better.
us
Let's just
know.
say the sooner the better.
And I think you said we already have around 20
Around 20.
confirms,
A
and
lot of maybes right now.
that's great. That's great for our first year. So hopefully
Yeah.
that's something that if we do have success with this and people really like it, it's something that we can do. I don't know if we'd be able to go to like a ton of different baseball parks, but hopefully, maybe it's something that every year, maybe next year we potentially take it to the Bronx. It might be tough for people.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know if I'd
but,
even want to
but
tailgate there. It'd just be a bunch of cars
yeah,
all around you.
you'd be tailgating in a parking garage, but I don't know.
Yeah. All right.
We'll
Thanks everyone
see.
for listening. Like, comment, subscribe. Let us know if you are interested in the tailgate. Leave your comments about who you think, how you think our takes are, who do you think's win the East, and any hot takes you may have regarding that. Thanks everyone for listening. Like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Yep. See ya.